Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to be showcasing a Doryani's prototype armor stacker build. This build is on the duelist class and we're using the champion because of the inspirational ascendancy as well as some other decent tanky ascendancies like fortification and unstoppable hero as a way to stack our armor even further for basically free. This is a life-based version of the build. Typically, when you see Doryani's prototype, it is an energy shield version. This version is not that. This build currently sits around 130 mil average DPS with a 250 mil top end for damage. It has 90% all res with negative 160% lightning res. So it's got a res cap on fire and cold, as well as chaos resistance of 75% on chaos. This build utilizes the fact that Doryani's prototype allows you to drop the lightning resistance of anything around you by 160%, and then uses elemental overload as a way to deal tons of lightning damage using the skill Smite. For a melee skill, this build actually has tremendous clear. Val Smite is an insane skill. It holds a ton of clear value attached to it. And then the regular skill itself, because of its low mana cost and insanely easy to scale attack speed, becomes one of the most powerful melee skills in the game when you increase aura effect in particular, because it is an aura skill as much as it is an attack skill. So for the passive tree, we're basically focusing on getting an extra frenzy charge, and then we have Panopticon, of course, and then everything else in the tree is increased aura effect. We're using 3 1-passive voice cluster jewels, as well as a ton of introspection reservation cluster jewels in order to stack our aura effect as high as we can so that we can hit that 90% all res cap, but also to stack the damage on Smite. We're then using Dream Feather, a weapon that scales attack damage based on the amount of armor you have, and then we're multiplying our armor by using a keystone passive called Iron Reflexes, which allows us to stack both evasion and armor to gain all armor. We're then using increased aura effect on our rings in order to further scale grace, and then of course the non-curse aura on our tree is increasing both grace and determination to give us basically 2 million armor. With that 2 million armor, we have a dual wielding Dream Feather, so our attack damage is scaled to the moon. We're then running an Alpha Howl with double corrupted, socketed lightning, socketed aura in order to gain extra levels on grace, wrath, haste, and determination. We're also running in Ashes of the Stars to increase quality of our totems, in particular our Ancestral Protector to scale that attack speed, and then Blood Rage as well to scale attack speed. This helps with our single target bossing. We also increase Poacher's Mark, which is our mark on hit ability, with the quality increase. And then of course the reservation is extremely necessary because of how tight that this build is on reservation. Since it has no room for enlightened gems, we have to scale reservation the best we can. For the 6th link in particular, a new gem called Volatility came out, which gave us higher scaling on our lightning damage. Since lightning damage typically is between 1 and whatever number you scale it to, Volatility is really good with lightning skill gems because you can't really go less than 1, and you get 60% more on the top end, right? So then it just becomes, can you attack fast enough so that you can roll enough times on that high end of the lightning damage? Apart from that, anything that says you deal lucky hits is obviously insane. Of course, they changed the masteries of lightning so that we can no longer easily get lucky strike on lightning hits. So getting lucky strike would be kind of a setback. It'd be way too hard to get in this build. Besides that, we're running multi-strike elemental focus because we're not focusing on shocking the enemy, and then we have inspiration and elemental damage with attacks. This leads to some of the best scaling on Smite that I've ever seen. Of course, that being said, build comes with downsides. Now, I want to preface that whenever I make a build, these builds are showcases. These builds are not cheap. I don't have a roadmap for these builds. It would take too much time and effort for me to go back and create budget versions of my build showcases, as it already takes me days to make the POBs for the builds at the top end, and then also takes me days to make the build in game. So hopefully you can understand why I don't make roadmaps of my builds or budget versions. Now, the downside of Armor Stacker with Doryani's is that you die almost immediately to lightning degen on the ground, and then also lightning hits. Definitely, you can feel them. You can feel the lightning hits. It doesn't mean you can't survive a lightning hit, because trust me, you can survive a lightning hit, but lightning degen is like you need to react fast or you'll die. So there is that. Apart from all that, we're running a Progenesis Amethyst Flask. We can abuse Progenesis in this build because we are a life-based build. And then for our Mage Blood and Mage Blood Flasks, we have Armor while fortified on the Mage Blood. And then on the Flasks, we have increased armor, increased evasion on Jade and Basalt Flasks. And then we have a Stibnite Flask for 20% more evasion as well. We also have increased attack speed on our suffixes. Because of Smite's mana cost, we actually don't need reduced mana cost on our flasks, and therefore we're able to run reduced effective curses instead. We're not running movement speed on the flasks because Leap Slam is already a skill that's going to beat out your movement speed no matter how much you scale it. Leap Slam is just since your attack speed is so high, your Leap Slam will just go nuts in this build. And apart from that, this build is very good at bossing as well as clearing. It's great in simulacrums. I've wave 30'd in simulacrums multiple times. I was farming simulacrums with this build. It felt very comfortable. This build rarely dies. It will only die to lightning degen. So you do have to watch out for things like Cirrus, for instance. I put a clip of me fighting Cirrus so you can see the ultimate demise of this build and see how, even though this build deals tons of damage, if a lightning degen is in its presence, you can kiss your luck goodbye because it's all over for you at that point. This build is not running any mirror tier gear, is only running 1 passive voices. And the 1 passive voices can be substituted out for 3 passive. If you do 3 passive voices, you have to pull out some max life out of your tree, as well as potentially 1% fire res. But it is doable, and the build will still function pretty much the same, except the defenses are less. For our jewels, it's pretty standard stuff. We're running an impossible escape in order to get to Whispers of Doom, as well as some increased aura effect. Very important part of the build. And then we have a Melding of the Flesh, which is giving us negative 80% elemental resistance, but also allowing us to make our cold resistance cap equal to our fire resistance cap, since we're stacking Purity of Fire on the build. We're trying to get as much minus resistance, so we also have a Thread of Hope with negative 20%, and Corrupted Blood cannot be inflicted on you. Since we're trying to stack lightning desistance, so the opposite of resistance, we're trying to get our lightning resistance as low as we possibly can so that we can get that damage scaling and that damage penetration as high as we can. And because at around 0% lightning resistance, it stops mattering how much a lightning degen hurts. You will just basically die to it. You don't have to worry about that. Now, there has been some speculation on the idea of running Rakiata's Dance and Armor Stacker, and the issue I have with Rakiata's Dance is you're then not able to use Dream Feather, which is literally the whole point of the build. But I am curious to see if there are other builds that could use Doryani's prototype with Rakiata's Dance and some resistance scaling in the positive direction. I don't think it would be a Smite Armor Stacker build in particular, but it would be something that I could see be possible. But yeah, I just wanted to showcase this build. Hopefully you guys enjoyed what you've scene, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, take it easy.